Hello again and welcome to another Macking domain video. We have today a pretty interesting product to showcase, which is the Telycam PTZ Controller. I have a few cameras set up today for this purpose. As you can see here on the screen, we have on the top right corner is actually the PTZ UHD from NewTek, and the bottom left is actually a POV camera, so that you can see sort of the workbench. And this camera itself is actually a Telycam. Now, while this is directly from Telycam and it's made to work specifically with Telycam cameras, nevertheless, if you notice, it supports VISCA over IP. So in effect, any PTZ any PTZ camera that has an inbuilt VISCA over IP standard could potentially work with this controller. So in fact, we've already tested it out with the PTZ UHD, and we found that, of course, you can get your basic functions such as doing your pan and tilts and zooms. You can also recall presets. For example, I've set preset 1. On top of that, what makes it interesting is that through the VISCA over IP protocol, you can also control things such as the exposure settings. For example, we want to do full manual, we can manipulate the shutter speed, the iris size, and the gain setting all through the dials. You can also do shutter priority or iris priority, for example, and this is true for any camera that allows those values to be manipulated through the VISCA over IP. So that means it really depends on the camera, but as we found with the NewTek UHD, it still works with all these parameters. On top of that, let's go back to being full auto. White balance is another one that could potentially be changed. For example, you can do the presets that already exist in the camera, such as the indoor mode, maybe even the outdoor mode, or all the other modes that you can typically find either through the web UI or the PTZ camera's remote control. We can even do full manual, whereby I can manipulate the red and blue gains directly through the dials, as you can see here on screen. Let's go back to auto. Now, these values can also be saved to the presets. So for example, let's go back to specific exposure setting that we want, and maybe let's do outdoor mode, because I like this sort of warm colors. I'm going to save it to this second slot. So I simply press 2 and set. Now if you see, I can cycle between the first preset, which is full auto, or second preset, which is those specific values, and you see the camera immediately goes to recall those settings. And yeah, that's a pretty neat feature in terms of the controller being able to work with other cameras. But of course, it goes without saying it can work with its very own Telycam ecosystem of PTZ cameras as well. So yeah, on top of that, it can also work with the NDI protocol, although the NDI protocol is first of all to a specific model, so there is a non-NDI model and an NDI model for the controller. That's the first thing to take note. The second thing to take note is that the NDI protocol itself is not able to control parameters such as the exposure and the color as of now. That might change down the road, but just so you know, if you use an NDI camera and you want to use that protocol for the control as well, you can only probably do controls for the pan, tilt, and zoom. Now, of course, the question then would be, how do I set it up? Well, there are two main ways to set the settings for the controller. Of course, first of all, we'll go to perhaps an empty slot, Cam 4 for example. If you go to the menu, long press the menu button, you can see there are various settings that you can go through. Primarily, camera settings is what you want to go. So as you can see here, you can set the different protocols. You can also set the IP address. So VISCA over IP primarily depends on the IP address of the camera. So I can go to, for example, key in a specific value. So yeah, as you can see, now it has taken over a new IP address. So if I had a camera that is in 111, you will see it be able to control from here on. So I can exit the menu, and in the camera number 4 page, if I had a additional camera set up, I can actually start controlling it from here already. But the other method that I like to use, which is a bit more easier in my opinion at least, is if I have the web browser, for example, loaded up. Let me go to a screen capture real quick. So with the web browser, I just need to key in the IP address of the PTZ controller, which is 125. As you can see, keyboard control is here. I'm going to key in admin password. You'll come to this device control page and you'll be able to see the existing ID corresponding to the IP address of the other presets that I've had previously. Now, if I wanted to add, the neat little feature this controller has is in the web UI, you can actually search the network and it will list out the sources available, NDI sources as well as VISCA over IP sources. If you notice, on-with is also in here, so very much possible to control an on-with camera through this controller as well. So let's say I have a camera that I wanted to add, for example 65, I've already added. Let me delete this so I can show you how it's done. So camera 65 VISCA over IP protocol, I'll add and assign it to camera number 2, save changes, and voila, it's up there. And this will be reflected on the keyboard controller as well. So just earlier, we've had camera 2, IP65, as you can see here, and I can start controlling the camera 65, which is sort of blocked by the UHD, is right behind there. But yeah, some pretty cool features from this controller, and it is actually quite affordable. I can't give you the precise pricing right now off the top of my head, but I can be pretty sure that it's below 3,000 ringgit. So some pretty neat stuff here that we have in office. So if you're interested to explore this controller and potentially bring in your own PTZ camera to test with our controller, feel free to contact us. We'll be more than happy to run this through with you with your own devices to make sure it works, and if it does, hopefully it can add additional value to your production. So I hope that has been helpful. If you're interested, feel free to reach out to us for any additional information that you like. And again, hopefully we'll meet each other again. See you in the next video.